Guys, what's going on? Kyle Krieger here. Welcome back to my channel. Okay, so today I wanted to sit down and talk to you guys about voting, but specifically I wanted to talk about how queer people, people on the LGBTQ spectrum or in our family can change the outcome of the election in November. And I want to sort of discuss that by showing you how LGBTQ people could have changed the outcome in the election in 2016. You heard that right. I'm saying if queer people would have voted in higher numbers, then we would have completely changed the election, because there are 4 key states that cost Hillary Clinton the election, and if queer people would have gone out and voted, I will show you by numbers that the election would have been different. If you are as sick and tired of this administration as I am, then I'm hoping that this video will help you and encourage you to register to vote and to make sure to make a plan to vote on November 3rd. Let me slide over here because we're gonna put some facts right here, okay? Trump won in 2016 by 38 electoral votes. That's less than 1.2%. It's pretty common knowledge that she won the popular vote. So as you know, we go in the United States by the Electoral College, which is an outdated, insane system. However, it's how it goes. So the reason why LGBTQ people could have changed the outcome of the election is very simple. It actually comes down to 4 states. So let's talk about those 4 states: Pennsylvania, Florida, Wisconsin, Michigan. Okay, if you guys live in one of these states, Ohio, these battleground states, and this year it's looking like Texas could be a battleground state this year. Arizona is a big one. If we're gonna be looking at these states, and if you live in these states, please, this video is kind of catered to you because I want to inspire you to vote and see how you can make an impact. I feel like a lot of us kind of believe that your vote doesn't matter. It's especially hard to understand how your vote matters when it's coming down to numbers in the millions. However, I'm hoping that by telling you about these numbers that you can see that your vote actually does matter, and it would have made a huge difference if you did not vote and you are registered. One way that we can win this year is if we get a bunch of new voters. So one thing to remember is about 137 million people said that they voted in 2016. And why that's frustrating is because there's 330 million people in the United States. 60% of the people get to decide the rights and the way that the country goes for the rest of the people. I don't really think that that's how the system is intended to work. This may be a little bit controversial to say, however, I do want to express that I just want you to vote. I don't necessarily care who you vote for. Yes, I want you to vote for Biden and Harris. I want to get our country out of this current situation with new leadership. However, it's just important to me that you exercise your rights. And these rights are given to you in the Constitution, and it's very important that you use them. I don't think that the rest of the country should be able to decide the rights and the way that the direction that the country goes without you having a say. Okay, so let's talk about these really important 4 states. Now that we've sort of made the case that it's important for everyone to vote no matter where you live, these 4 states in 2016 would have changed the election, right? And there are 4 combos that would have changed the outcome. If Hillary would have won Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, she would have won the election. If Hillary would have won Michigan and Florida, she would have won the election. If Hillary would have won Florida and Pennsylvania, she would have won the election. And if Hillary would have won Florida and Wisconsin, she would have won the election. So now let's get into individual states. Okay, so let's talk about good old Florida. Florida is a state that is kind of problematic because it's challenging to sort of look at a map and be like, oh, it kind of seems like a red state. Why is it so blue? Why does it go blue sometimes or whatever? And it's mostly because the denseness of the population, right? So towards the bottom of the state near Miami, it can be very blue and very dense with lots of people. It has like a high Hispanic amount of voters. It also has a high amount of older adults that are voting. It has a very Christian, evangelical sort of vibe about it. Like where my sister lives in Orlando, it can be very gay or very Christian and very religious. So Florida has 29 electoral votes, and there are about 9 million voters in Florida. 691,500 of those voters are LGBTQ voters. And in 2016, Trump's margin of victory was 114,455. Out of the 691,000 that are eligible to vote, 358,298 did not vote. So that means Trump won by 114,000 votes, but 358,000 queer people did not vote. Okay, so let's move on to Wisconsin. Bing, bing, bing. So Wisconsin has 10 electoral votes. In Wisconsin, there's 2.7 million voters. There are 152,695 LGBTQ voters. Trump won Wisconsin by 27,000 votes. The amount of LGBTQ people who didn't vote is 79,112. Hillary could have clearly and easily taken Wisconsin if we just energized our people to get out and vote. So my main point here is if Florida and Wisconsin would have had more queer people vote who were voting for Hillary, then we would not be in this situation, right? So let's talk about Michigan. So Michigan has 16 electoral votes. There are 4.5 million voters in Michigan. There are 294,000 queer LGBTQ voters in Michigan. This hurts. Trump won Michigan by 13,000 votes. Okay, that is by the skin of his teeth. The amount of queer people that did not vote in Michigan is 152,000. He won by 13,000 votes, and 152,000 queer people did not vote that were registered. It could have been a landslide in Michigan. Very often it's your vote doesn't really matter, electoral college, whatever. No, your vote absolutely matters. And here it matters in the thousands. Say 30,000 people watch this video and everybody takes 5 friends with them to vote that happen to be queer, or even if they're straight, it doesn't matter. That's 30 times, that's 150,000 people. Last but not least, the other state I'm gonna talk about here is Pennsylvania. So Pennsylvania has 20 electoral votes. Pennsylvania is a really big state. It has 5.98 million voters. That's a good chunk of people. And Pennsylvania is another swing state. Right now in the polls, it's leaning blue, but I feel like we cannot go by the polls. We should just get as many people out to vote as possible. There was 363,000 queer voters. Trump won in 2016 by 68,000 votes. So he won by 68,000 votes. However, the queer people and the LGBTQ people that did not vote is 190,000. Basically 200,000 queer people did not vote and he only won by 68,000. So even if we get 1/3 of that out there to vote, I mean, it could have changed the election. I just wanna, make sure that people in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Florida, Ohio, Arizona, Wisconsin, all these states that have a big impact on the election, I want to make sure that we assist each other in getting out there and getting excited to vote. The reality is, if queer people don't vote, there are people who are making our decisions for us. When we vote, we get a say on who we're electing, and then we can hold these people accountable. Maybe Biden and Harris were not your first choice. They weren't my first choice either. However, it is important that we are steering our country away from fascism and that we are gonna put someone in office that we know is a really good man and a good woman and who will have our best interests in mind. We should be sort of done with the autocrat. We saw this week that he did 18 interviews with Bob Woodward and he admitted on tape that he was trying to play down the pandemic. That cost 200,000 lives.
He deliberately withheld information from the American people, repeatedly concealed details about the gravity of this threat because, in his words, he didn't want to create a panic.
It's a very tricky situation. It goes through air, Bob. That's always tougher than the touch. The touch, you don't have to touch things, right? But the air, you just breathe the air. That's how it's passed. It's also more deadly than your strenuous flus. This is 5 per. This is 5% versus 1% and less than 1%. So this is deadly stuff. Well, I think, Bob, really, to be honest with you,
sure, I want you to.
I wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down.
Yes,
because I don't want to create a panic.
You didn't want to create a panic?
There are ways to help. Look, voting is enough. Not voting, to me, is not an option. However, if you want to get involved, there are ways to get involved. If you can donate directly, if you have the finances and you have the willingness and you want to donate to a candidate, you can do that directly. I've been donating $10, $5 a week, sometimes 15, 30, just like whatever I have laying around, and sometimes I'll pass it around to like senators that are in tough races. And I just like go on and usually I just see the ads on my Instagram. I can put a couple links down below of places to donate. You can donate anytime, whether you're making phone calls, you're running around town with the candidates, you're helping them in the office. I don't know, you can just reach out to a campaign, ask them if they need help, how they need help, and give them time instead. It's so great and exciting to get inside the campaign election process because it really does impact our lives so directly. And if you don't want to get involved with a campaign, another way that you could help is get other people registered to vote. And also you want to make sure if you're going to mail in your ballot, you want to do it as early as possible, since we know the USPS has been under some scrutiny for trying to slow down ballots. I totally understand that voting is not the most exciting thing in the world. And I also think it's important to note that especially if you're not voting for the candidate that you wanted to be the nominee, that it's challenging to vote. However, I saw this tweet recently. It's kind of a famous tweet. I think I've been seeing it around a lot, which has a perfect analogy about voting and about voting for someone who is not your exact candidate. Voting isn't marriage. It's public transport. You are not waiting for the one who is absolutely perfect. You are getting a bus. And if there isn't one going exactly to your destination, you don't stay at home and sulk. You take the one going closest to where you want to be. The reason why I love that quote is because I think it's really easy to get cynical about voting, and if it's not the candidate that you want, then it's sort of like, why am I doing that? But the cynicism is how the system is built. They want you to be cynical about this. They want you to think that your vote doesn't matter. If you don't have a seat at the table, then you're probably on the menu, right? And if you have a seat at the table, you get to make decisions for yourself. Your vote is your seat at the table in this instance, because I don't want these queens making decisions for me without my say. Yeah, that's it. And I hope you guys are excited about November 3rd. It's gonna be great. No matter what, we're gonna be okay. Probably the most important election of our lifetime. It's gonna impact the next 50 years. Senate seats, president, judges, Supreme Court judges. This could really shape the future in our climate and women's rights and gay rights. It's big time. So let's do it, and let's knock it out of the park, okay? Thank you guys. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Kyle Krieger. If you have any questions, you can leave stuff down below. And as always, I love you guys, and I'll see you soon. Bye.